Jackpot.
Golly dang, what was that?
So much for cybersecurity.
Sir, citizens arrest! Citizens arrest! They come back with them files!
Okay. So maybe it doesn't happen like this anymore, but cyber attacks and threats? Now those are real, even for the Timberland investment community. So how do we ensure that we're protecting our data along with our clients? I don't know about you, but I want to know more.
Whoa, guys, wait for me. That fire looks very welcoming. I'm sorry I'm late. I hope you saved me some s'mores. Good morning to everyone out here, and welcome to Orbis's Campfire session live from the UGA Timberland Conference here on Amelia Island. I'm your host, Ani Keeline, Business Development Manager with Orbis Incorporated, and I must say, I am so excited to see so many faces this early in the morning. I guess we can take that account to the Braves winning last night. Any Braves fans in here? Woo-hoo! All right, guys, world champions, first time since 1995. That is a fantastic achievement. So thanks again for being here. You guys are not alone, because as many of you know, have joined our Campfire sessions in the past, this event is virtual. So we are also having a number of individuals joining us virtually. So let's give a big warm welcome to you out there on your home computers, at work, at school, wherever you are. Thanks for being here. We are going to engage you throughout this session as well. All right, so many of you know who Orbis is, but for the new folks around here, a quick background on our company. We are a technology company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been serving the Timberland industry now for almost 22 years. We work in areas of GIS mapping, recreation management, timber inventory, anything you can think of from a software standpoint. We're here to support. So if you guys need any additional information, please feel free to grab me after this session or any of my colleagues who are here with me today as well, including Clarence. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. You can also find us online at LinkedIn or at www.orbisinc.com. Now, of course, before we get started, and I know you're dying to hear about cybersecurity, we do have some housekeeping items. And you will notice I do have my cue cards because, as many of you know, I had a baby 8 months ago, and this mom brain is real. It is mush. So in order to keep our marketing director happy, we better not forget anything. Housekeeping-wise, guys, we are going to have some Q&A at the end of the session. Now, unlike the other sessions that you've been having throughout this conference, this is going to be live. So we're not going to be using Slido. And what we're going to do is we are going to have some folks on each side of the room who are going to come around and bring a microphone to you. So after the session, we'll let you know. You can raise your hands and they'll come with a microphone to you. Virtually, we are also going to have some questions and Q&A session from you. You can go ahead and put those comments and questions in the chat discussion at any time through this event. That should be on the left-hand side of your screen. For those of you in the room, yes, I know I'm pointing to my right, but we have to think about that digital environment, and it's on the left. Okay, so it also, you can be involved with any sort of comments that are coming through. And what you guys can do at home is you can comment on the discussion, and you can also upvote other guest comments if you like. And this will help move them to the front of the queue. Now, lastly, for those of you who know Orbis, we do love a good giveaway. So we will have an opportunity at the end of the session. We are doing a raffle. So as long as you dropped your business card in our bucket on our table, you're going to have an opportunity to win an array of prizes. Now, you do have to be present to win. So we will be doing that at the end of the session as well. And don't worry, if you're at home, we're not going to forget about you. We're going to have an Orbis prize pack as well, which we will draw a virtual winner and contact you directly. Okay, guys, housekeeping's over. Don't worry, we're almost ready to get to the good stuff. But first, cyber threats. You saw our opening video. We joked about it a little bit, but they're real. And all of our personal data in today's society is stored online, from your banking investment to your clients' contracts, legal information, all the way to your personal shopping lists and online food orders. All of this information is vulnerable. And as we've seen across the globe and across organizations, large and small, cyber attacks are on the rise. And what we've seen is that the outcomes have resulted in major disruptions in our supply chains and business operations. So what can we do in the Timberland investment community do to protect ourselves? We'll get into that and a lot more. But of course, I'm not the expert on this subject. These guys behind me are. So let's go up and meet them. Hey guys, good morning. How's that campfire doing?
Good morning.
Staying warm?
Nice.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Well, first, let's go through and introduce who I have on the stage with me here today. To my right, we have from F&W Forestry Services Incorporated, Chief Information Officer, Stephen Logan. Stephen, thanks for being here.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Oh, man, and he is not alone, y'all. We have from Orbis's home city of Charlotte, North Carolina, Global Head of Timberland Investments from Hancock Natural Resource Group, Tom Sarno. Tom, thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
And as you guys know, this man needs no introduction. It's Clarence Neese, co-founder and vice president of Orbis Incorporated. Clarence?
Thank you, Ms. Nani. Thank you.
And guys, a little surprise for you. This wouldn't be a true digital event if we didn't bring someone in digitally as well. Am I right? So this is a big surprise for you. But we have all the way from New York City, the managing director of cybersecurity with Ernst & Young, Kevin Zurison. Oh, I knew I was going to butcher that, guys. Hey, Kevin, can you hear us? Good morning.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Nice to be with you.
Hey, thanks so much for being here, Kevin. Okay, guys, so that's our panelists. Welcome, everyone, and let's get started and down into the dirt. Stephen, we're going to start with you, and we have a question for you. F&W Forestry experienced a cyber attack recently. Can you walk us through what happened?
Sure, I can. Well, perfect time. Sitting around the campfire, it's Halloween, so a good scary story from a business standpoint. Unfortunately, about a year ago, we had a ransomware attack like many others in the forest industry. And I think everybody's aware at this point that as part of the supply chain for investors, we are being targeted. So, we all need to be mindful of that. Ours happened, like I said, about a year ago. It came through an email. It was a fake invoice that went into our accounting box. And the accounting clerk, like you would figure, opened it up to look at it. And when they opened it, it deployed the ransomware into our system. Give you a couple details on it, because you may find it interesting how these things work, is once it's deployed, it hides its own tracks. So our antivirus software caught it, but it was not quick enough to stop what was happening. So it had already spread, put other programs out there. It opens a back door so the bad guys can basically move stuff in and out. It puts keyloggers, can put keyloggers on. So through a keylogger, they got the accountant's credentials, which, we keep basically your level of security is related to your position. So she couldn't access a lot, so, you're separated there. But what happened is that keylogger stayed on, and a kiosk computer, my head network guy ended up using it at some point. And with that, they got the keys to the kingdom. So they sat in our system for about 4 days. And what you don't know, that's a short time. A lot of times these guys get in, and they'll be in your system for weeks. And they're snooping around, they're seeing what you got, they're possibly exfiltrating data. We got lucky, they were in for 4 days. For some reason, they decided to deploy after 4 days. They do this generally at night when nobody's around, so nobody can say, hey, something funky's happening. And then you get the joy of coming in the next morning and none of your files will open. So that's kind of the story of what happened on our end.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting goosebumps up here. That is really scary. And we are past Halloween, but my, oh my. What did you guys do at FNW Forestry? What course of action was taken when this happened?
Sure. So we were lucky that our executive team had the forethought to have cyber insurance.
Yeah, good.
That helped us immensely. That gave us immediate help on both the legal side, the technical side, and the forensic side. The reason I know so much detail is because this team of forensics was able to track everything that happened in our system. So it helped us to figure out, do we have to worry about data that went out, and what computers are they on that we have to focus on. So that was great. They helped us go through it. My IT team, kudos. They had solid backups. We have a backup system that goes to tape. It's separated so it can't be messed with. So in reality, it took us about 30 days, which is actually pretty good, to get back up and go into full speed, but we were able to recover all the data because of those good backups.
Oh, wow. Thank goodness. Thanks so much, Stephen. We're going to move on now with Tom. Tom, can you speak to the role you and Hancock play in protecting investors from cyber attacks?
I can, but actually I need your help with that.
Oh, yikes.
So you didn't see this one coming.
Nope.
I have my own cue cards. I'm going to interview
All right.
you for a moment.
Uh-oh.
So first, where were you born?
I was born in Greenville, South Carolina. No, I'm not falling for this.
No,
All right.
it's just between you and me, right? Just
Okay,
need a little
sure.
Where
I
were you
was born in Manhattan, New York.
Manhattan, New York. That's not what my data says, but okay. What year was that?
In 1965.
Okay. And where do you live?
Oh, I live in New Zealand.
And just, between us, your annual salary.
Oh, sure. It's $1 million.
So, personal information. We have it. We have it on our employees. We have information about our clients. Maybe business information. Clarence, again, you were laughing before, but this is about you right now. So, what's the backbone that Orbis uses for your GIS?
We use Esri software.
Esri?
We're
Kind of
Esri,
like
we're Esri
most of
partners.
us.
You know that?
Yeah, and-
We all are in reality.
Right. What regions do you operate?
We do, of course, domestically, and then we do international as well.
International as well. You've got a great recreational site, hunting leases. We've talked about that.
Yes, sir.
It's pretty expensive. What's your profit margin on that?
We don't make
Well,
profit. We
never
just do it
mind.
for the fun
I
of it.
don't need your profit margin. I just really need the code. So if you don't mind sharing that with me.
Well, it's like right. We don't share the code.
Okay,
You're right.
Well, look, so I think what we've just explored are different kinds of information. Some of that information you actually don't mind people having. You want people to know about your business, external information. Some of the information is personal, identifiable information. You don't want people to have that. And then you've got different levels of business information. We've seen, just through this demonstration, there's some things that you're okay sharing, and some you say, I don't want anybody to know that. Well, guess what? All the information that all of us have is digital. There's no way around it right now. When we go out and do field inventory, when I started, actually, we were doing paper, write in the rain paper, and then we moved to the Corvallis CMT systems. Now everything's on an iPad, it's collected, it's on our servers. That is information that costs money to collect. It's also information that is very important to our clients in their business. And what if we lost that? What if we turn that over to someone that we didn't want to have it? One of our competitors, perhaps. Maybe someone in a sale process. And so really, I think what we have to think about is what is the cost of collecting information and what's the cost of losing information? Cost of losing information could be monetary, and it could be in the form of reputation. I think the example that FNW gave was a fantastic one. I think they did all the right things there. And I think we're all just as vulnerable in that arena. Some of the things that I think what we have to do is have responsibility to define the risks that we're willing to take with cyber information, and I think that has to be pretty much approaching zero appetite for risk of losing information that you don't want out in the public domain, and then putting controls in to test that.
Wow. Great. I mean, you caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie, Tom.
Picked up a little too quick.
Well, what's your biggest concern on your radar in terms of cybersecurity in the Timberland investment community?
Well, I think first that we're not totally unique in the Timberland investment community. I think that as we've seen, we can be attacked, but I think the investment community at large and business at large faces a lot of the same risks. That people want information that we have access to, and they can use it. And my key concern is exactly what Stephen just noted. We've got great systems in place, but it's really about technology plus people equals cybersecurity. You've got to have your people trained, and my biggest concern is around people inadvertently kind of getting that wolf in sheep's clothing kind of situation that actually opens the door to the kingdom. And there's certainly ways through that. You've got to have your software in place. You've got to have the training in place. But I think you have to test those systems. And when I say test those systems, not only look and see if the software running, but actually run hacks on your own business. And we at Hancock Manulife do that. We have our IT department do that, and then we actually hire third parties to try and attack our systems to find out how vulnerable we are. And it's not necessarily just the electronic attack, it's the note with an invoice to someone and see if they open and click on it or not. And they'll get an immediate call of, you might not ought to clicked on that. So it also becomes a training moment.
Stephen, have you guys been experiencing
I can
this
follow
now?
up on that. User training is a huge part of this. That's where most of your attacks come from. We've obviously beefed that up. So not only do we send out periodic training, we're testing our employees nonstop.
Yeah.
So we're sending out phishing emails, just like Tom said, and if they get caught, then they get sent into remedial training, further training. We raise risk levels based on if they fail things to limit access. So yeah, really start with the user.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about some of the other technical stuff down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, I know you're listening. Do you have any points you want to add to talking about personal data and kind of the measures that these teams here have put in place for, their offices? What do you think about that?
Thanks so much. So I think for sure in the wake of the SolarWinds attack last year, a year ago, the Microsoft Exchange attacks, the ransomware attacks against Colonial Pipeline, JBS, all these attacks, we probably as cybersecurity folks should be more concerned about cybersecurity than ever, and less confident about the security of our systems actually. And I think Tom and Stephen made some really good points about some very practical steps that organizations can take to protect their data. My suggestion would be that you need to focus on the basics and try to reduce that attack surface. Then make sure users are a huge vulnerability, and particularly users with elevated privileges. Make sure that you know who has elevated privileges, and can are you comfortable with the level of access that they have and the monitoring that you have in place? Yeah. And if you don't have one already, you probably need an incident response plan, and testing is I've just doubled down on that one. I think Stephen talked a little bit about that. Is you just got to test those plans and make sure as an organization you're prepared to respond, and I should say seek outside help. Those establish relationships with external counsel, with even public relations kinds of companies, people that are going to do the forensics investigation, so that if you do have an attack, that you know who to contact and maybe even have something in place, and then engage the whole company in this, from the board on down. Make sure that they understand their role and you can do that through a series of exercises. And so just reiterate the points that have already been made.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much, Tom. That was a great, scenario. We were able to see how easy it is to get information from people unless they're sneaky and know what he's doing. Guys, just a quick reminder before we move on to our next panelist. For those of you at home about the Q&A session, we are going to have answer any sort of live questions that are going to come through at the end of the session. So make sure you're entering those into the comment box on the left-hand side of your screen. Those of you in the room here, please write down your questions. We are going to go around at the end of these sessions with live mics and answer any questions. Now, it's also very important, I failed to mention this at the beginning, if you are at home, as you put those questions into the comment box, please direct who you want the question to go to. That'll just help us as we ask those questions here on the stage. Same for here in the crowd as we go around here in a little bit. Please make sure to direct who you would like that question to go to. All right, we are now going to transition back to Kevin again, who again, as to remind you, is joining us virtually from New York City. Kevin, you were an advisor at the Securities and Exchange Commission. We understand that the SEC has created a department dedicated to management and enforcement of cybersecurity. Moreover to what you have just told us a moment ago, are there any additional policies that the SEC has created around cybersecurity that affect or apply to our industry?
Sure, thanks. Great question. Yes, in 2017, the Securities and Exchange Commission created a cyber unit. It was the first time that they actually stood up an organization dedicated to essentially looking at cyber-related misconduct. And they're really focused on, I would say, like criminal acts, okay, marketplace manipulation schemes, hacking to steal non-public information, violations involving cryptocurrencies, intrusions into retail brokerage accounts, and any cyber-related threats to trading platforms. And so they're really there designed to help protect you and I from the cyber criminals and add some additional firepower, I would say, to the U.S. government's response to cyber attacks. So they're for most of us, or for us, in the audience, they're here to help and make things better and safer. There are a couple of Securities and Exchange Commission regulations concerning cybersecurity that companies need to be aware of and follow, so that you don't get yourself into some challenges. And so, first of all, the SEC seeks to ensure transparency and full disclosure in securities marketplace. So, securities issuers, public companies, they need to disclose material events relating to their cybersecurity programs and vulnerabilities. Okay, they securities and issuers need to disclose material cybersecurity lapses, breaches, vulnerabilities, just like they would disclose any other material corporate event. And sometimes organizations try to hide that or downplay the risk, and the SEC is going to hold organizations accountable. Okay, the registration statements must disclose material facts in a straightforward manner. The periodic reports, like your 10K filings and your your 10Q filings, are also must be clear and straightforward in identifying cybersecurity risk and incidents. And then if you have an incident, such as a ransomware attack or some other sort of breach, you need to file that Form 8K. I think you have 4 business days to do that after there is an incident. So many organizations have stumbled and not actually disclose it, and then found themselves under investigation by the SEC. And then there's just a couple other ones. the SEC's oversight of broker dealers. They have a regulation called SP, which is the safeguards rule. It requires regulated financial services firms to safeguard the personal data of their customers by adopting written policies and procedures that are reasonably designed to ensure the security and confidentiality of customer records. Everybody's very interested in PII in particular. Protect against anticipated threats or hazards to customers' records and information, and then protect against unauthorized access. So those things need to be done. And some organizations, if they've not done that or done it to a reasonable standard, and I think the SEC is looking for a bit of reasonableness here, they can find themselves in violation of that regulation as well. And then finally, there's an identity theft red flags rule in regulation SID, which requires broker dealers and investment advisors registered to develop and implement written identity theft prevention programs that are designed, again, to protect, detect, and prevent identity theft. So all that sounds like a lot, but when you boil it down, it's pretty simple. Declare any cybersecurity risk in public financial statements. Disclose all material cyber breaches, cyber attacks as soon as possible. Don't hide them. Take reasonable steps to protect client and employee personal data, and don't engage in any illegal activity such as trading company stock before the breach has been announced. Okay, so just a couple of things that I think we can all do and makes it better for the organization and better for clients and customers as well.
Great points. I hope everyone was writing away with your pencils here because that was a lot of points, but very good points. So guys, make sure you follow those and try to employ those in your companies as well back home. Now, I know there was a lot of information, so if you weren't fast enough to write down all of that, just a quick reminder for you, like all of our other Campfire sessions, we are recording this and we'll post this on our social media channels afterwards, so you will have an opportunity to review that important information that Kevin just gave us now. So Kevin, just continuing on while we have you on the phone, because this is not often, what are some of the best practices for storing and protecting investment information that our industry can follow as well?
So, great question. And one that comes up frequently, and I think is actually evolving a little bit. We talked a few minutes ago, Tom and Stephen provided some really good sound advice on how to keep the organization safe, how to make it as hard as possible for attackers to get into the network, and you need to kind of follow those kinds of those advice and lessons learned as well. You want to make your organization as hard and as hostile for the attackers as possible, so that they'll go someplace else. Believe it or not, attackers have bosses, they have budgets, and they're going to go where they can maximize their return on their investment, which is their time, effort, and so on and so forth. And so you might not be able to prevent every attacker, but it's a little bit like two men and the bear. You don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun the other guy. And so if you make your organization harder to attack than others, then you might be okay. All right, they're going to go someplace else. But getting back to your question a little bit, I think one of the things that you see trends in the industry is not only is it about data protection and data privacy, which are big issues. But it's a whole question of resiliency. I think there's some understanding that probably most organizations are not going to be able to prevent every cyber attack, and that it could happen. Okay, but you want to make sure that you've backed up your data, that it's not necessarily easily accepted by attackers. And attackers, oftentimes when they carry out these attacks, they're going to go after your backups too, because it's like kind of pointless. They're not going to get a ransom, or they're not going to get paid if it's easy to restore your system because you backed up. So most sophisticated attackers are going to attack not only your primary but your backup, or can disconnect your backups. So you want to make sure that you're backing up information to a place that they can't access to. Maybe it's offline, it's not connected to your system, so that you can be somewhat resilient, and you don't have to be in a situation where you absolutely have to pay. And segment your networks if you can. Encrypt everything, because if it's encrypted, even if they steal it, they can't use it. Okay, and so even if you lost the data, but it's in a way that they can't monetize in some fashion, you're going to be in a better situation. So those are just a few ideas. I mean, I'm happy to talk about this for hours, but I don't want to bore you all with too much about steps to take. It is scary, as you mentioned at the beginning of the panel.
Oh, please, Kevin, you are not boring us at all. You are informing us. And I believe, guys, anything you want to add to what Kevin has just said?
Yeah, I'll add on a couple things. Just a couple of simple things that you really got to be doing. So multi-factor authentication, that will save you a large percentage of the time, because if they get your password, you get a text or an email saying, hey, somebody's trying to get in. So that's a must. And that's not just from a business standpoint. I'd recommend you have that on your personal email, your personal banking, everything. Other thing, you always hear about passwords, strong passwords, changing your passwords. Well, Microsoft just released that a password spray is happening right now, what they call a password spray. So somebody has gone back to the dark web, they've grabbed all the old passwords they can find, and they're just shooting them out there and seeing what they can get in. So I think Android does it, I know iOS does it, that if your password's been compromised, it'll put up a little note saying, hey, your password's been compromised at some point, you better change it, because right now they're trying their hardest to get in using those.
Yikes, I've seen that come up on Google. You better get home and change those passwords right away, even if you haven't seen it. Gentlemen, anything else you wanted to add down there?
I would just add that being defensive is the first line, defensive on your system, people, but then having that backup plan is critical. What are you going to do after the fact, and how are you going to have your business continue to run? Absolutely critical function.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, I would add that like Kevin talked about employee training. I mean, that's the whole a lot of times, and with remote workers now, we have everybody remote. Everybody's coming in from their computers at home. I mean, and so again, your employees have got to understand they're the easiest target and the easiest way into the domain. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And one more thing, we're in the forest industry, so find a good partner that specializes in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It's nonstop changing. I mean, it's a full-time job, so find a good partner and trust them to help you out.
Yeah, definitely. Let the experts be the experts. That's important for sure. Well, thank you guys so much. Kevin, we're not done with you yet. We've got to pick your brain once more with my last question. Don't worry. Any insight into what is potentially coming next in terms of data security and privacy?
Another great question. So I think we can count on the fact that cyber threats are not going to go away, and they're probably going to increase in volume going going forward. Data privacy is going to continue to be extremely important, and especially on and the regulatory landscape is going to continue to shift. And compliance demands are becoming more of a reality for businesses. So businesses need to take this, quite seriously. The whole notion of data privacy kind of started to drive forward with the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, which was implemented in 2018, that provides a new standard for how the European Union resident data is collected and stored. And unlike other security guidelines, it's called GDPR. It's not focused on how companies secure data, but is why they have what data they have. So I think the point here is they're trying to get at, do you need to store all this data? And that's actually a really good question that folks should be thinking about. So, but what GDPR has done is it inspired all sorts of other data privacy regulations in several individual states, including California, and California, followed quickly thereafter by adopting the California Consumer Privacy Act. And over a dozen other states have signed privacy regulations into law, and the federal standard is also likely on the horizon. For example, during the 2020 presidential campaign, data privacy was an element of both parties' platforms, and it was a bigger point of emphasis for the Biden campaign. So with the market's reliance on data to drive decision-making, which is really all about data these days, new laws could require substantial changes to policies and processes. Awareness is critical with data privacy legislation, so you need to stay up to date with that. Beyond that, I think there are a few trends that folks see ahead. Okay, there's going to be more privacy laws, which means more costs for data collection. So again, you have to think about, do you need to collect and hold on and retain and store all that data? Collecting less data makes more sense. Companies have historically defaulted to collecting and storing data as a way to future-proof their business. But in light of data breaches and some of the challenges that have happened because of that, I think people are rethinking that possibility, because data can also be not only a benefit but a liability. And then privacy is getting the CEO's attention these days. With greater awareness of privacy issues, consumers are increasingly paying attention to the ethics of companies. The result is, pressure on chief data officers, data scientists, and marketing executives to pay more attention to how the companies handle data. And that's a trend that's going to definitely continue. Ransomware raises the threat on data availability, and it's increasingly important that that be a focus. And then one that's not really talked about, but is really, really scary, is disinformation is becoming a greater threat to data. And artificial intelligence is scary good these days. And if there's sites that, if you haven't seen it, I was just amazed the other day. This person does not exist. .com. This person does not exist.com. You click on it. Every time you click on that site, a new picture of someone that looks like you and I comes up, but it's something that's been created by artificial intelligence. So the potential for deep fakes and disinformation is extraordinary. So in order to counteract misinformation and build trust with customers, businesses will need to develop clear communications guidelines when sharing or correcting information, and provide more visibility into their practice. And just finally, resilience, we mentioned it just briefly, is really the way forward. In the past, data security has focused on keeping the data confidential, protecting consumer information from leaking and so forth. However, in recent events have reinforced that data security needs to also focus on the integrity and availability of the data, especially in the face of rising disinformation, the frequency of attacked. So being able to restore that network after an attack and not and focusing on that operational resilience is something that I think is really important going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. These are great points, Kevin. Thanks so much. It looks like somebody wants to talk up here. Whoa, Clarence being quiet? Y'all write this down in the books. It's a miracle. No, I'm just kidding. Kevin, thank you so much for those great points. I know we are absolutely going to have some questions for you. So if you don't mind sticking around from maybe our live audience or from our virtual audience at home, just one last reminder, please go ahead and put those questions in the comment box on the left-hand side of your screen. We are going to wrap up our panel here lastly with the well-renowned Clarence Neese, co-founder and vice president of Orbis Incorporated. Clarence, Timberland is relatively new asset class still. And as we've mentioned, some things are still done the old way, if you will. And so with that being said, Orbis has been around for a while. How have you seen information and data security change over the years?
It's a great question, Ani. You're right. It's one of my biggest things. I beat my head against the wall every day with a lot of our clients from a technology standpoint, and trying to push them forward as best as I can or as we can, trying to give them as much advice as we can. And as you guys know, in the olden days, we collected information on paper, like Tom was saying earlier. We write it down and kept it in file cabinets. And of course, over the last 20 years, the trees have grown, but so has our information. The information that we collected and we store is taken off. And as we know, our clients, our investors want that information. They want to know. They want to make decisions, as Kevin said earlier on the screen there. They're using this information to make decisions. And so as that happens, then of course, now we're exposing ourselves more and more to cyber threats. And so one of my favorite jokes, and again, when I talk to clients a lot of time, is arguably the information that we have nowadays is almost as valuable as the trees. At least on some properties, it's at least as valuable as the trees. And so we have to educate ourselves. We have to practice, good practices when it comes to cyber threats. And we have to move forward as an industry. We cannot go backwards to record it on paper again. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points, Clarence. Thanks so much. Again, guys, I know I said that was a reminder last time, but my cue cards are telling me I need to remind you again. So if you were at home, don't forget to put those questions in the comment box on the left-hand side of your screen. Here in just a wee bit, we're going to come around the room with live mics and ask those questions. So if you are putting questions in the comment box, please direct the question to whom you would like that to go to. Now, before we go to our questions, and I know you're dying to have your questions answered, we do have a game, because we love games, and games are fun, am I right? Yes, I love the interaction. This is good, guys. Great. Many of you have joined our campfire sessions in the past, and this is going to be the same game we played last September. It's called Fire Starters. Woo! We don't have a theme song for that yet. Fire Starters is all about topics in the industry. I'm going to read a list off to our esteemed panelists up here, and as well to Kevin, who's going to join us virtually again, and they are going to let us know, are these topics relevant or not? So before we get started, let's show you what these signs look like. Gentlemen, would you please hold up your sign with the flame? So as you can see, this is a flame. What this flame means, if I read a topic and they hold this up, they think that this topic is hot. It's now. It should be on our brains, and you guys should be going home and Googling what it means, and it could really keep this fire going. Now, from the opposite side, if our guys hold it up, please, gentlemen. This is called an extinguished flame, okay? That big old red X mark going through. If our gentlemen hold up this X, extinguished flame, that means that even though the topic may be still relevant in our industry, it's just not at the top of our lists. You could put this as a rainy Sunday event, perhaps, to go ahead and Google and figure out what is going on, but it would definitely not keep our fire going. Okay, guys, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Kevin, do you have any questions?
I'm good, thanks.
All right, guys.
I'm ready.
Let's
ready.
get
Hopefully
Hopefully
started.
not too difficult.
Perfect. Okay, guys, I need you to hold these signs up as fast as you can, all right? It's like NASCAR. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ransomware attacks. We've got hot across the board. There's no controversy there. Put that on the list. Artificial intelligence. Okay, so Clarence, you're the only one to say it's not such a relevant topic anymore. Why don't you think artificial intelligence is?
I think artificial intelligence is important. I just don't put it at the top. I think, as Kevin said, there's things coming out now. I just don't. I think it's one of those newer topics, and I think it's going to be hot shortly. I think, but it's not there yet. I think so.
All right. Well, you heard it straight from the mouth, Clarence Neese. Phishing with a PH.
Oh, I think hot.
We've got hot across the board here on Amelia Island. Kevin, I guess we don't see yours right
There
now.
he is,
He
yep.
says it's hot as well. These guys, I'm sorry, did you talk before the session? Multi-factor authentication. I
have
don't
to say
speak
hot.
English anymore. Sorry, guys. Hot. Blockchain. Whoa. Okay, Kevin, you're the only one to say that this is a hot topic. Gentlemen here on Amelia Island have said it's not so relevant anymore. Why do you think it's a hot topic, Kevin?
It's going to change. It's changing everything. Everything's moving in the direction of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and I just maybe it's not there yet. Maybe like Clarence said for artificial intelligence, but I think it's huge.
All right, well, guys, Ernst & Young says it's important. You better Google it. All right, we've got internal/insider threats. Yeah, of course we gotta wait for Kevin. Oh, it's a hot topic all around. Here we go. Banking Trojans or tiny banker Trojan? We don't know. Do we know what this means? Gentlemen, does
it's a
anybody want to
Trojan.
explain that one?
It's like a financial Trojan, like trying to get your bank account information. So it's like a Trojan on your computer. So when you go to your browser, it's going to memorize your password to get into Bank of America.
Thank goodness Clarence is here for us, guys.
What he said.
All right, the Internet of Things. Hot. Kevin, what you think?
I'm not sure actually, but I'll go along with the group.
All right, well, why are you a little unsure, Kevin?
I don't know. This is just a topic that seems like it's been hot for 10 years, and it just, I don't know. It does present lots of additional threat vectors, and I guess I don't know. It's hard to worry about everything when you have to.
Yes.
Like,
I agree.
and you've got lots of threats out there. It's just like it's hard for me to like think about my toaster and my refrigerator as threats, but
Well,
I guess they are. So
For those of you out in the crowd, Stephen, do you want to explain what the Internet of Things is? Probably should have some
Yeah,
preface
so
for
we're
that.
talking about all our technologies now, talking to each other, talking to the internet. So I think to follow up what he's saying, it's been around, you keep hearing it talked about. And from a forestry standpoint, I'm kind of big in the research side. There's some really cool things that can be done, putting these out, measuring diameters of trees every month and sending it in. So a lot of promise, but with like everything technology, you have cybersecurity concerns.
Yep.
Sure. I mean, I understand that because I find it exciting that when I pull up my MacBook, that it already has the Wi-Fi password because I connected on my phone. But at the same time, I'm thinking that is a little bit suspicious that they are so well connected.
Yeah.
So I get it. Guys, one more. You've been so good just doing this so quickly. I'm impressed. Impressive. You can put that on your CV, holding up signs quickly. Dark web. What you think, guys? All right, we've got 3 knots, and 1 hot. All right, Stephen, you know that means we're coming to you.
Yeah.
Why
so
you think it's...
the password spray I just mentioned,
Yeah.
that is harvesting stuff off the dark web. When we had our attack, Our forensic guys were going to the dark web to see if anybody had said anything about the TAC and offering data for sale. And so to me, it's pretty important.
Okay, guys, so basically what we have learned from this fire starter round is you need to Google every single topic that we said. And you need to know what it's about and teach everyone at your office. All right, guys, thanks so much for playing our game. Kevin, thanks so much. And now we want to hear from you, our live audience and our virtual audience. So this is where I'm going to actually be cut off because we have got some folks around the room with live mics. We have our marketing director, the beautiful Miss Kim Keene on the left-hand side, and I believe we'll call him beautiful too, is Mr. Joel Feltman. They are going to be coming around the room bringing a microphone to you if you have a question. So if you do, please go ahead, raise your hand. One of them will be coming around. And please remember, direct the question to whom you would like it to go to, whether that's Kevin, Stephen, Tom, or Clarence. Please try to avoid questions to me, unless they're about my boots.
I would guess this would go to Kevin, but maybe anybody can answer this. How do you prevent what I'm going to call sleeper ransomware from hanging out a while on your system and infecting your backup?
Kevin, did you hear that okay?
Yes, I did. It's a great question. So I'll just repeat the question for those. Like, what do you think about, or what can you do to protect yourself against sleeper ransomware? And what we're talking about there is this is actually a very common practice of the more sophisticated cyber criminals. Is they're going to go into your network, and they may be there for months. And it will probably begin with a phishing email sort or another, which is why it makes a hot topic. And then once they're in, they're going to establish persistence. They're going to then move around your network, try to look for those system administrators or those folks with privileged access, elevate privileges, and then get to the data that's of most important to your organization. And then they're going to look to take that data out. They might actually also look around and see how much cyber insurance you have, because this will help them craft their request for a ransom.
Unbelievable.
And then they're going to exfil that data. And after they've exfiltrated the data, at the moment of their choosing, they're going to, and they've probably disabled the backups and done everything that they can do, and then they're going to drop in the ransomware. So a few things that you can do to make it harder for them. You know, phishing training and awareness for the employees is a good thing. Locking down and understanding your privileged accounts and minimizing the number of people who have that, and monitor them, make sure they're in some sort of protective system. You need a really good endpoint protection software or service, and there's a number of pretty well-known vendors out there that can actually look for that kind of behavior, and then if you just need to practice your incident response so that when it does happen, you can respond. Now you can be more sophisticated than that. You can whitelist your systems and your applications so that you can make it harder for them to find the way to exfiltrate the data. So there are things like that you can do. But it's a tough problem going against a very sophisticated, well-financed actor.
Yeah, great answer, Kevin. Thanks so much. Gentlemen on the stage, anything you'd like to add to what Kevin said?
Yeah, sure. So this is a balancing act. The more you secure your system, the less your users can do. So, you've got to find the right balance. With security, you're taking a layered approach. So I think everything we've talked about is layered on top of each other. One thing I'd add on the antivirus and endpoint protection. So some of your traditional antivirus that we all grew up with and know don't really protect you as well as they need to now. There's new versions of these things. They are AI-based. Again, well, I think AI is important. But they're not just looking for a certain file coming through. They're looking for traces and, ooh, this seems like it could be a virus. They also aren't just looking for that. They're looking for the actions that happen when you click a program. So they can tell, oh, that program shouldn't have gone to the registry and wrote something. I'm quarantining it. So I'd suggest if you've got one of the older antiviruses, look around at some of the newer options. They're much better at catching people trying to get in your system.
Oh, great answer. Gentlemen, anything else?
Mike?
All right, perfect. We've got another question up here in the front. The beautiful Joel Feltman, can you please come up to the front? Here we go. Exciting. Again, just a reminder, please direct the question to whom you would like it to go to.
Hello. Hi, so this question is for Kevin. I'm Joshua, by the way. So in regard to the requirement for publicly traded companies to disclose material cyber attacks to the SEC, so what is the SEC's criteria for determining materiality? So I want to know from their standpoint what constitutes a material attack, or is that left to the definition of the company? Is that subjective?
Kevin, did you get that question okay?
I did. It goes to what is a material event, right? I think the SEC is purposely let that be not clearly defined, and is leaving it up to the organizations to determine materiality. And I think it's one of those things where when you see it, you know it, okay? So if the event matters to your organization, if it's going to have some sort of financial impact on the organization, if it's going to have some impact on your customers or your clients, if it's going to put your organization at greater risk, then you need to declare it. And you're safer declaring more as opposed to less. I would say that as bad as a ransomware attack can be, or a cyber attack, so many organizations suffer far greater consequences to their organization, their reputation, by mishandling the event and the post-event things. Okay, people are going to find out that you've lost data. People are going to find out that you've been attacked in some fashion. It's better to be early in disclosing and out front in saying that it happened. And organizations that handle the response successfully are in far better place than those that mishandle it. So I guess I would say is err on the side of disclosure.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Kevin. Gentlemen, anything you'd like to add? All right, we've got another question already. Steve, I'm sorry, did you?
I'll just say that when we were hit, we took that route. We fully disclosed to our clients as quickly as we could. Some of them were sitting in here. Obviously, that wasn't a pleasant call for who had to make it. But tell them up front and then keep them up to date as you go through the process. It's the best way to handle it.
One last thing I would add is involve law enforcement. Call them. They're there to help. The FBI and other resources that the government has. You can't go wrong by getting law enforcement involved as well.
Great. All right, we did have another question here in the audience. Go ahead.
Someone who may or may not have fallen for a phishing attack at a previous job.
Would you speak just a little bit louder? I'm sorry, it seems like your mic's not working.
Hear me now? As someone who may or may not have fallen for a phishing attack at a previous job, how can those coming into new organizations with unfamiliar systems and procedures kind of be prepared? Maybe Stephen, touch question though.
Yeah, so hopefully the company you're coming in is proactive. As soon as an employee starts, they immediately get put on our training system. So that's one of the first things. The other thing is just look at the emails. I'd rather you delete a valid email than open a bad one. And what you'll see with most of these phishing is there's always something off.
Yeah.
You know, if it clicks your mind like, that doesn't quite look right, or my IT guys never send out, hey, this is forestry IT. Just dump it. Be overly careful.
That's the same thing we do in our office. Is a discussion in our office is, hey, you know, if it looks funny, delete it.
Yep.
Because it's not real. And they come through. You guys, I'm sure you guys see me your own personal emails, and you know, I saw emails I got text yesterday from Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account, but I got text that said my Facebook authentication code was this. And I was like, look at them go, baby. Come get me.
Or there was a phone call on the way down from answering, and if you answer, they say, you know, there's been a purchase from your Amazon account for a MacBook and an iPhone for $1,800. If you did not make this purchase, please call us here. And then that's when they start to get you. I noticed personally as well on my email sometimes that Microsoft is sending me an email saying, you need to reset your passwords. Always look in that to field as well, because it's coming from a Yahoo account. I'm sorry, didn't realize Microsoft was using Yahoo. So guys, make sure you're checking all those small details. And like they said, if anything seems fishy,
Delete it.
don't touch it. It probably stinks.
Yeah, there's a big one going around now that I've talked to several companies where it's a client of yours saying, hey, we've changed bank accounts, here's the new number.
Yeah.
I know a couple companies that have fallen for it recently.
Yes.
So, you know, when in doubt, do a different route to contact them. Our rule is if our employee gets that, they have to call the company and say, hey, are you changing your bank account? Because there's been some folks that have fallen for it lately, and all you did was just pipe money to the bad guy and never paid.
I mean, I'd like to respond to the question as well, because
Please.
I think you've highlighted a key risk. And if you think about, you know, companies that keep a risk register, what are our risks? Well, we train our employees. Do we train all our employees on day one on all policies? You can't. So you start off with, you know, health and safety and things like that. Cyber may not be day one, day two, or day five. It may be in the first month, say in the first 30 days. But to your point, you're new to the company, you don't know who people are, and you get an email from somebody who says, hey, I'm so-and-so president of the company, and I need you to click on this and take care of it right away. Well, I've got to make a good impression. I've got to do that. And so I think that you've kind of taught me something here is kind of one of the risks as we take on new employees is how fast do we train them in areas like this. Good question, thank you.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Are there any last questions that we have in the room before we go to our live virtual audience? All right, we do have one over here. I'm so sorry I didn't see you sitting there. Go ahead.
Hey, this question is for Tom. You mentioned that you had outside what I would consider white hat hackers probe your system. Did that process actually uncover any deficiencies? Did you find that helpful? And then on an unrelated question, what is your mother's maiden name?
I can't get logged in without it.
He's going to fall for his own trick there.
No, I'm not going to fall for that trick. So yes, I'd say that 99 times out of 100, things come out very clean on those hacks. But there have been things exposed, mostly again through not open doors, if you will, in the technology, open doors in the people. And so when I say hacking into the system, yes, it's a technological hack, and then it's also kind of that phishing hack or spear phishing hack to your people. And I think that's the most vulnerable places where you do have some people from time to time take the bait.
Yeah, great.
Can I
Kevin,
just
go ahead.
jump in for a second? I would say that red team testing is hugely important. And I guess my experience mostly is that people are surprised with the results. They're usually surprised at maybe how easy it is to get in or how vulnerable their employees are. I was at a financial institution and we had a red team test, and the attackers sent an email to one of their victims, and the victim responds, and I can't get into your thing here, so can you please send it to me again? I mean, so like people just like do kind of silly things, and then they were in the network, and they were there for 4 days before our sensory grid actually detected them. And it was only because we had a really sharp incident responder. And so we learned a whole bunch of things about how we weren't probably as good as we should have been. And knowledge is power here, because if you find things that need attention, then you can fix it. Okay, and it's better you find it than the attackers, because for sure the attackers are looking.
Great, thanks so much for adding that to the conversation, Kevin. One last chance, anybody in the room, any last minute questions before we transition to our live audience at home? All right, going once, going twice, and sold to our marketing director, Kim Keene, who will be reading some of those live Q&A questions coming from our virtual audience at home. Thanks for being here, Kim.
Hey there, son. Okay, yeah, so we've got a lot of good questions that came through. Some of them you guys have already touched on, so I'll try to just hit some that we haven't covered yet. One of this is for all of the panel. It says, what are the current trends in the industry to have a better security model against cyber attacks in terms of cloud, on-prem, hybrid devices, etc.?
Gentlemen, who would like to take a swing at that first?
I look to the experts.
Stephen, let's go with you. Chief Information Officer.
Sure.
Stephen.
So I think most of what we've been talking is relevant to that. So it's really a layered approach. You're trying to both train your employees, you're setting up your systems, you're being very careful with your backups. We call it air gap. If they're on tape and non-connected, then the bad guy can't get to it. So you need to be thinking about that. And get a good partner. As things change, as new technologies comes out, that's been very helpful for us as we've continued to build up our system.
Yeah, great.
And to add to that, we love the cloud, of course. That's where we sit, and we have our own private cloud, and we actually use public cloud like Azure. And so we are looking at, moving all of our systems out there and getting some support from Microsoft and other groups like that are, we have private servers are protected, but again, it's also nice to have a partner out there as well, like Stephen's talking about. So,
Tom or Kevin, anything else you'd like to add before we go to our next question? Right? Sounds good.
I would just say briefly. The move is to the cloud. Clarence is absolutely right. That is the future. I think along with the move to the cloud, a trend and a term that you probably are starting to hear and you will hear more about is zero trust. So making sure that your identity and access and your privileges are locked in really, really tight, and that you don't, every essentially transaction or every, movement within the organization is verified again, so that you so much harder for the attackers or the threat actors. So I think that's something that you're going to hear more about, and is a hot item, I would say.
Awesome. Kim, have you another question for us?
Yeah, we've got a couple. So this one is for Tom. It says, we've heard a lot about ESG lately. On the investment side, is the integration of ESG practices affecting anything on the security end?
I think it's a very fair question, but I would classify the ESG data we have as akin to the other resource information we have. It is all important. It's all attributes of the force that we manage. And that we need to treat it just the same as, whether it be our diameters, our heights, our growth equations, what are the threatened endangered species on the property, the communities in which we want to operate, the employment. I would kind of actually lump it into another natural resource attribute and protect it the same.
Yeah.
Okay, great response. Kim, do we have time for one
Very
more?
good. Yeah, we've got a couple more. Let's see. So Clarence, the majority of our clients are still paying via paper checks. Do you see these going away anytime soon?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Yes. So, yes, we still receive a lot of income for clients at the office that comes in via FedEx and UPS on a daily basis. I mean, I think you guys would be impressed if you came by our office that UPS and FedEx stop 3 times at our office every day, and I think they hate us in some respects. So they bring boxes and boxes of checks that people send in to us for processing for our clients. And so, yes, we have a huge push internally with our OneConnect platform to push that stuff out to the cloud, to the web. Again, to try to, you're sending certified money through the mail. It gets picked up, it gets still stolen. So in the beginning with our video with Corey and Joel, thank you guys for doing the cute little cybersecurity video in the beginning, but we're trying to eliminate that and push it out to the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, sorry. 2 more really quick. This one goes back to Kevin. It says, does the SEC have any restrictions for TMOs to house their data on-prem? Are there any resources available on this?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Does the SEC have any restrictions for TMOs to house their data on-prem? Are there any resources available on this?
So, to my knowledge, the SEC hasn't put in place any restrictions that the data needs to be, housed on-prem. I think many financial organizations, that's how they were built. That's where they've invested lots and lots of money in, databases and securing their data. But I think the trend is definitely towards moving to the cloud. I think that's going to continue to go forward. As Clarence mentioned, they may have they may have a private cloud as well as a public cloud.
Yep.
So a hybrid model is going to be here for a while. Some of the larger financial institutions are still heavily invested in retaining their own data on-prem, but they're all trying to figure out how do we get it to the cloud as quickly as possible. And so, to my knowledge, there's no restrictions. The SEC put out, I think it was in January of 2020, around the 27th of January, some guidelines for reasonableness in terms of cybersecurity protection. It's a pretty useful document just to take a look, and I think everybody that's involved in cybersecurity would say that it's pretty basic and reasonable in approach. It might be worth just having a look at that. It's kind of in checklist formats. You can say we did that, we did that, we did that, we did that, and if you're in pretty good shape, I think you fall into the category of reasonable protection. If you're not doing many of those things, then you probably want to invest a little more attention on cybersecurity.
And let me add to that too. I love what Kevin said there, and I would hope that the question would come to me because I feel like I was talking to a client there. So as I said earlier, I beat my head against the wall at a lot of clients' offices, and I'm guaranteed that was a client saying, hey, that Clarence comes by here and says we should be on the cloud, but we're on-prem. We're keeping our stuff in our office. And we have safes and doors and all kinds of great stuff and lock it down. And they're not as protected as they think they are. And I think they need to realize, and I've said it 100 times, that hey, everything's moving to the cloud. You have to be on the cloud, and you just need to protect yourself and train your employees because they'll get on-prem as well as they'll get into the cloud. And so I'm glad they pushed it to Kevin. I think they were looking for some SEC backup, that they're going to say, hey, Clarence, sorry, the SEC says we can do it here. But no, the answer is that they're both under attack. So.
Yeah. I would say just one last thought on that, Clarence. I couldn't agree with you more. But like get help to do that, okay? Because the moving to the cloud gives you all sorts of potential efficiencies and built-in security with because the cloud provider provides some of it, but you can't mishandle it. If you don't do the identity and access part of the move to the cloud, then you're no more secure than all these safes and doors and locks that you have now. But there's some real potential opportunities to elevate your cybersecurity with the move to the cloud.
Yeah.
If it's done right.
Stephen, did you want to add to
And
that?
working with a wide range of clients, maybe years ago we saw a preference for private cloud, which we have we're hybrid, we have both. But now I think everybody understands that the cloud is the future. And there's security benefits built in versus our private cloud, we're having to do all that ourselves. So I think everybody realizes it. There's a lot of rules. We do a whole lot of client audits. And they're looking at how your single versus multi-tenancy set up and how you're segregating data. But I think at this point, the cloud's happening. It's just, how quick is everybody getting there?
Great. Thanks for the feedback, guys. Kim, do we have time for any more?
Yeah, we've
All
got
right,
some
great.
time. So one of the questions that came in, there's a follow-up to that, and he says, to clarify, you guys have spoke generally about passwords, but have not mentioned password policies at the Active Directory level. Can you speak to that?
Ooh. Anyone? Any takers?
Passwords are nasty.
Kevin, you want to jump first?
So I think we mentioned earlier, strong passwords, and so we can start there. You probably do need. You should have your information. Let me go up even a level before we get to passwords. You should have a good governance around your information security program. Okay, and that should be. There should be a number of policies that you have. Typically, the policies are kind of general in nature, and then you will have a set of standards that will go along with these policies, which will outline that in the case of a password, it must be at least 12 characters in length, have upper and lower case letters, a set of several numbers, and special characters, et cetera, et cetera. And so that should all be documented. And so if you don't have a set of information security policies, then you need to get them, and you need to document all of this, because if you don't have this documented, you're going to miss something. It's extremely complex, and you have to have a good governance around your information security program if you're going to be successful. I would say that future trends, you're going to eventually get to a password-less environment, but that's probably a few years away at this point still. And open it up to Tom, Stephen, Clarence. For your thoughts.
Well, I'm probably the biggest offender in our office. I don't mind saying that out loud. I guess I shouldn't though, but then I have no security access at all either. So they give me one little surface, and that's all I get. So. But it's a balance. I think with Steve, what you talked about earlier on security, it's a balance. Having a 12-character password that's got numbers and numbers, it's hard to remember that. My dog's age plus, my wife's birthday, and then, I made my first $1 on Tuesday, and then I write it on a Post-it and put it on my screen, and then and then of course, the next week I'm on a web call, and there's my passwords on the screen, So it's it is really, really hard, I think, and so we have policies in the office and procedures in the office, but man, it puts me in the grave. So that's me personally now. So.
Yeah. Policies. Policies on passwords. We have them. They got to be certain complexities, certain characters. They get reset at certain periods. All that now is built into the software and system, so they're forced to do it. Passwords are a pain, and let's be honest. Using a good password manager is recommended. You definitely don't need to use the same password across different systems, because that just opens up everything if one gets figured out. But that's tough to do. How do you, now that we have 200-300 logins, how do you do that? So recommend a good password manager with a very strong password. There's a lot of research. Some of the newest stuff coming out is 3 unrelated words together. It's as strong as some of these numbers and characters.
Exactly right.
So there's some options out there, but you have to do whatever the requirements are to the system you're logging in. So a lot of them won't let you do that. But you might be able to do that on your password manager and then follow their requirements with what's saved in there.
Yeah. And then of course that multi-authentication is, I'm huge on that, so.
Yeah.
Key.
I like logging in and then text me. I'll give you the code. I mean, I use my phone all day anyway, so send me 6 texts, that don't bother me.
I don't know about you guys at home, but I'm getting nervous. I'm going back and changing every single password I've got. Kim, are there any more questions?
Yeah, okay, so last one, and we'll wrap this up, and this is for Stephen, back to you. What advances are coming for foresters on the ground that may help in protecting the info and data they're collecting on site?
Okay, I got what advances are coming for foresters on the ground to
Protect.
That may help them in protecting the info and data that they're collecting while on site.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. Much like Tom said, we've gone through the paper to the CMT units to the Windows units. Now we're on Android. So the beauty there is there's some built-in security where basically our guys are collecting on custom software we build SQLite so it can be encrypted while it's on the ground. So I think a lot of it is the legacy software is what gets you in trouble. So as quick as possible, move up to something newer because now the mindset is security's built in.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much, panelists. Kevin, thank you so much, guys. We really just appreciate everyone joining us for our Campfire session here live at the UJ Timberland Conference. I hope you guys have gotten some great takeaways and written down some awesome notes. Of course, just a reminder, if you missed anything from today's session, we have recorded this and we will be posting it on our social media channel, so you can go back later on and review that information. I want to give a big thanks to our esteemed panelists here on Amelia Island, but also Kevin joining us virtually. Please join me in a round of applause for them. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. So if you missed any part, like I said, it will be online. We are going to sign off virtually, but if you were here in the room, stay because as I said at the beginning, we have some great giveaways. So we're going to be signing off for now, but we'll see you at the next Campfire session.